Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with a couple unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. Actually, that company was one of the first generative AI companies, pre-transformer models, back in 2016. My partner was David Yang in that. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And for that, I have my incredible guest, friend, Rick Rasmussen. He's a Silicon Valley native with a direct experience, and he's a thought leader across multiple industries, working with governments, venture capitalists, and academia. He's been on executive teams on three separate companies that started with zero revenue, raised rounds from leading global VCs, did IPOs, gained Fortune 500 status, and sold for $12 billion, 12 with the B. So he connects governments and economic development agencies with the vast resources available in the Valley. And he also is a very kind person building the entrepreneurial ecosystem, not only in the US, but worldwide. He's developed coursework, over 200 hours worth of coursework, and he teaches entrepreneurship. So with that, I'd like to bring on my friend, Rick Rasmussen. Hi, Rick. How are you today?
Hey, Gary. Good to see you. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, I got to tell you, how in the world, you're everywhere, and how do you go from Foothill College and radio broadcasting?
I had no idea what you're going to drag up when you went through my bio, but thank you very much. Foothill Owls.
You go to Foothill College. What did you say? Oh, I'm going to be on the radio.
No, that was kind of a mid-career thing. Basically, I was not the best public speaker and kind of shy in front of audiences at one point in time. And so I took the opportunity to actually go get my degree in radio broadcasting. I was an on-air DJ at a college radio station for 5 years to try to push myself beyond my own personal limits. So it was.
No, that's, and speaking is an art, and, you got to, but at the same time, it's a lot of practice, right? The more you do it, the better you get. So you went down to, you were an engineer, you got your Bachelor of Science degree in engineering at Berkeley. And then you went to, what made you decide to go to Berlin? Did you wake up and say, I need to get some Wiener Schnitzel? Or
again, you're dragging stuff up. So the undergrad, electrical engineering, computer science back at Berkeley, and then went into the semiconductor industry straight away and went through that progression of individual startups that you talked about at the intro. And then during the dot-com bust, as many of us did, I retooled myself. So I went back and got an MBA at Berkeley Columbia Executive MBA, which was super cool because you get the both entrepreneurship side as well as sort of the Wall Street finance side of things back in New York. And part of that program, which was 19 months and super triple awesome, was classes outside of the country. So one of which was at Humboldt University, the alma mater of Einstein, among other things. And so I took a course in consumer economic behavior, which a little bit of which we might actually hit on today.
No, that's great. We'll talk about that. I got it. So, for the audience out there, I went down through the dot-com bubble burst. I was with, I cut a deal with Broad Vision. We had raised quite a bit of money with one of the first e-commerce consulting companies. But how is it, for the audience out there, we have ups and downs in Silicon Valley. And Rick, so as you went down through that journey, I remember what pets.com and the sock puppet. I thought, there was a lot of stuff going on, but how do you go down through and navigate through those tumultuous times? Because there's a lot of ups, and how do you stay even keel? You said you retooled yourself, but how do you stay even keel? And that's one of the beauties of Silicon Valley is the resilience of the Valley, right? But how do you keep yourself even keel?
Well, first off, you are absolutely right. I mean, this place goes through cycles, and those cycles, you can sort of space them out roughly every 8 years or so. And some of that's aligned with the national economy and some sort of a recession. Sometimes, like right now, when the economy is doing well, it's hard to raise venture capital. So sometimes it's counter-cyclical. But in each case, it represents an opportunity. So what typically happens here in the Valley is things go on, like we're coming out of this cycle where there was a whole series of layoffs in Facebook and Amazon and Microsoft and Google, and everybody else was just laying people off by the thousands, tens of thousands. 300,000 people were laid off in 2022. When that happens, a lot of people leave. Maybe they just this place wasn't cut out for them. So they're off to other ventures. That's fine. But those that are still here often retool themselves. So you leave your cushy corporate job wherever you were, and then you think, what can I do with my life? Well, how about a startup? And so people take a look around and see what the latest trends are, gather people that they like and trust, and pull teams together and actually get the next thing going. So here it's interesting. You can talk about it from a personal level, but economically, startups are counter-cyclical. So downturn creates the opportunities for startups, and that's actually, and valuations are lower too. So that's a good time to go ahead and both start and invest. And then you grow up and start to write the next cycle, and then off you go 8 years later, and the same thing happens.
Yeah, no, I've been through so many of those cycles. So during the economic downturn, after the dot-com bubble burst, I went to Russia. So that's when I started my Russian journey. Actually, things were really good at the time.
We met at Skokovo.
What's that?
We met at Skokovo one time.
Yeah, I remember that. It's unbelievable now. It's like another life, a lifetime ago, actually. Yeah. Hard to believe. I wouldn't go there now, but yeah, it's amazing how you go down through and and we have these ups and downs. And so, as we're going down through, we see these companies from all over the world coming back to the Valley now. And I'm hearing it a lot, especially the generative AI companies. So, and I feel this again, because I got my friends are starting to move over, it's pretty well-known folks that had moved out of the Valley, moved to Florida, moved to Austin. I see them coming back. So that magic is happening. Well, how do those companies that come to Silicon Valley, what advice? Let's just say you're in Slovenia right now, and you've got a cool AI company. What would you do coming to the Valley today? You there, Rick?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I see you. Can you hear me?
System glitch.
System glitch.
I think you mentioned Russia and this happened. I don't know what.
I wonder why.
No.
Yeah, gremlins in the Kremlin. So when you go down through it, though, as we've gone down through these cycles, we've got these companies all over the world coming back to the Valley now. What kind of words of wisdom would you give those companies, and what do they need to do? I don't mean just like, well, they need to set up a Delaware corporation, but what's important for them, Rick, in terms of going global?
Well, first off, welcome back. I think, a lot of people are sort of analyzing this phenomenon that's happening, and it's a refocusing when you get a new technology that's emerging like AI, and it's more than emerging, it's exploding. There has to be a center of, intelligence or a gathering of knowledge in one place. And that really, like the power law sort of exceeds on itself. And so that's what we're seeing here is that concentration and refocus what's going on. It's super cool. So that's the anti-going global, actually. This is people coming back from global outposts into a centralized location to go ahead and get going. Going global then says, once I've developed a product or service that's I've raised money, I've got a team, I've done the launch, I'm actually doing well, then what? How do I take my local market and expand beyond the borders here and move out to other locations? And so happy to opine on that process and how it works.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we look at it kind of like, the way I look at it, it's like a hub to the rest of the world, right? It's a port where people come in, right? And a place where people go out. And I talk about that a lot around the world. It's just, it's just a port. It's a great place to come in and get resupplied, to go out and pick up those technologies and the resources. How important is it for those, those companies? So, you go all over the planet. You're speaking all over the planet. When you look at those companies that are in those locations in Europe or Africa, whatever, what kind of words of wisdom? What are 3 of the things that you tell them, Rick, that are important as a company that after the 3 companies you built that have been sold for 12 billion, what's important for them to consider in terms of the Valley, and what's important for them to consider in terms of a startup?
Okay.
You froze, Rick.
Yeah, unique situation, Silicon Valley. If you are here, you get access to all international resources. There's a strong Japanese community, Korean community, European community, even Latin American community. So you can actually tie into resources and start to think about expanding to other locales from here. So it's a good centralized location. This is an unusual set of circumstances. We can talk about that special case as we go. I think a better question is what you're asking, which is, hey, you're off in Moldova, Azerbaijan, someplace like that. How do you go ahead? I'm sorry?
I've been there. I've been to Baku. I've been to Chisinau.
I just got back from Chisinau on Friday. So, yeah. It is, but those places, basically, okay, I'll take Moldova just because it's kind of fun to talk about. Less than 3 million people in general, overall. So it's like the size of Santa Clara County-ish. And how do companies that are developing, global-ish technologies, how do they expand beyond the local markets? There's a bunch of sort of best practices that people go through. One is, be solid within your own country, even if it is a small market. Launch your product, get some customers, first off, interview all the customers you can, both internally and internationally. Launch a great product. Get your sales pipeline down. Get your sales metrics to the point where you understand what your customer acquisition costs are, at least within a range. And then you can actually start to think about doing something internationally. There are cases like B2B software or things that are just online only that can accelerate this. But for those things where you need a local presence in some other country, maybe feet on the ground, salespeople, something like that, operations, what have you, that effort in many cases of expanding beyond Moldova into EU or into US is really, the process is almost like starting another company from scratch. Do your market research, interview some customers, understand the competition, exactly what's going on, build a plan, do some trial launches if you can, and then go ahead and raise enough money so you can actually do a proper job on expanding within that location you've chosen. And choose wisely. Choose something that maybe not have a competition. Choose something that's simple for you. If it has language commonalities or something like that, that's a good thing to do. And then leverage. Go, please.
No, you said something really important. And I think, I'd like to expand upon that. The customer development, the customer interview, the customers, because sometimes people don't do that. They don't understand what's going to happen in a bad way if you don't really understand the customer and you start building stuff. So if you could expand upon that would be cool.
It's so true. Especially even if you're building a company, I mean, you get engineers that have the hubris and arrogance to go ahead and think that, oh, okay, of course I know what our customers want, or I'll build something revolutionary. I'm the next Steve Jobs, I could do that. It's the customer discovery is so important. You mentioned I teach entrepreneurship. That's lesson 1. Your customers are really what sets the tone and direction of your company. And so that's true when you go international, because it's a different culture. It's a different environment. There are different circumstances. There are different competition. There's all kinds of things that you need to know as you're trying to set a strategy, so you don't go in and just sort of bum around and screw up, because chances are you probably will, or at least not be.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, the other thing is, how important is sales and marketing? Because there's about 70% of the time, the founders are technologists, right? And they think the product's going to sell 65% of the time, right? But if you look at it, you come at it, how important is sales and marketing and business development to the process?
It's everything. It's what if you've developed a product within your local geography and it's selling, that product probably isn't going to be redesigned significantly for international expansion. What you're doing is you're taking something that at least locally has an existing customer base, then to sales, and it's a marketing and sales exercise. I'll put it in that order, because marketing is the one that does the the investigation of what's going on, speaks to the customers, develops a plan, and then just works with local partners to develop sales channels, which then, in totality comprise a launch. So
No, I agree with you.
Everything.
And I had one of well-known entrepreneurs we talked about recently. He said, we talked about storytelling. He said, I said, storytelling is like 60% of it. He said, no, Gary, it's 90% of it. He said, I was like,
if he was here, he'd go sit here and go agree with that. Yeah.
Hey, do you agree?
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
Storytelling is positioning. It is taking what you have and connecting it in a way that the customer understands. Customers have issues and problems that they're trying to solve. You can do that uniquely. That's the storytelling aspect of what you do.
So then here's another part. You went back for broadcasting. You said you wanted to go back and retool yourself a bit.
Yeah.
How important is it for the CEO to be able to speak, Rick? To be able to capture and rapture the audience? How important is that?
Somebody within the company. If it's not the CEO, if the CEO is a PhD researcher and, just was good at raising money because they can read privately, that's fine. Somebody has to be the company's spokesperson. You'd like it to be the CEO. Sometimes it's a board member, sometimes a COO, sometimes VP of marketing and sales, but you need that. The guy Kawasaki's, somebody you just mentioned.
I got to tell you, he is amazing at it. He is really, really good.
Yeah. Hang on. There we go.
Yeah, Selling the Dream. Is that his new book or what?
No, I don't know, actually. I think I don't know, he may have given this to me. I'll have to take a look. But this is just one of my things. It is a real bookshelf back there. And so when I'm on screen, somebody says something and, I know what I have. And so I'll just grab something out of inventory and show it off and make a point.
No, but it's important. It's, it's about being able to, enrich and rapture, to captivate the pictures with words so people can really feel it and make it emotional. I know, on the GSD side, as we're going down through the process with our startups, the first thing we do is we get down through and, we start breaking, deconstruct, reconstruct, taking their messaging apart and putting it back together so that people can feel the words, right? Is it something really ready for them? And it doesn't matter if it's a $0 revenue or if one company says 159 million. It doesn't matter. It matters about whether people can feel those words, and not where you are, but where you're going to go. So
how people feel those words is when you're speaking to them, they'll explain to you're going through the interview process or whatever. They explain to you what their problems are, and what their frustrations are, and all you have to do is listen to that and turn those right around. And basically that's the target marketing is, I'm frustrated and I don't like this current situation. Oh, really? You frustrated? You don't like the current situation? We can fix that for you. So
and that empathetic listening is really important. And that's another part, Rick. God gave us 2 ears and a mouth for a reason, right? And so when you're out there doing your customer development, make sure you're listening to the customer, and you're picking up and asking questions back so you can really clarify what they have. I know when we did Eva, we went out 50 times. My partner and I went out 50 different times. We had a contest between us. We bet $100 who could get more of the customer development interviews. Now imagine the guy's a billionaire and myself, and I'm the poor guy in the thing. We're going out down University in Palo Alto interviewing people. But the information we collected was absolutely invaluable because we took that. I would take my iPhone and record the sessions. I asked them if I could do it when I was showing my PowerPoint, and I sent that back to my engineers, and it made it crystal clear what the customers wanted, and it changed their mind. It got them to buy into it, the process, actually.
Yeah. No, that's it. And too many CEOs and founding teams bypass that step and just think they know, or just do a cursory thing about it because the investors told them to. But really, that's the essence of who you are and what you will be is what the voice of your customer.
And then so you go exactly that point. And then what happens if you don't do it, Rick? That's why they fail, right?
90% of all startups fail within 5 years. You will be one of them.
Exactly. So what do you think by using things like customer development? And I'm not asking for exact numbers. Using customer development, being able to do the storytelling, how much does that increase the probability of success?
I haven't seen a number on that. That's a really good question. I would love for some academic to do a full-on study of that. If it does exist, please send that along, and we'll start quoting it.
Yeah, no, I think it's,
results are real.
Yeah, that's the part. It's, in storytelling, I remember I took a course at Stanford. It was a storytelling course, actually. I got thrown into this class. I did a continuing education course. I thought, this is going to be easy. It wasn't easy, by the way. And they had a MBA professor and an acting coach. And so we would go into these sessions, and it was real serious. Like, here, you're put in a situation, you got to extemporaneously speak in front of this audience. And, and they graded us, and you learned how to speak.
What was your grade?
I got an A. I got a 4.0.
Yeah. I would suspect as much.
I mean, because I practiced a lot. It wasn't because I was really good at it. I was kind of scared when I was young. I took acting courses and stuff when I was in.
So that was my equivalent of the radio thing. Exactly that. Yeah.
And it helps. So
I just wanted to reflect on this whole idea of doing interviews. So if we go back to the topic of going global.
Sure.
Yeah, one of the things you can do if you're from Moldova and you want to expand, I'm going to pick a country, to France. One recommendation would be to actually have one or more members of the team join an accelerator in France. And accelerators are not that bad. I mean, the cohorts last 1 to 3 months typically, but they will go through and you'll get the discipline of actually going off and probably doing some customer interviews, getting some mentors that can reflect on the local market and talk about what's there, build your marketing plan overall, and then go ahead and do a launch within local markets. So if you have the time or capability of doing that, that's a really a good way to go ahead and force the discipline that it takes to go ahead and launch properly within one of these remote markets.
Yeah, you're right about it. Can you afford not to? That's the other side of the question. I mean, the situation is, Harvard, there was a first MBA program. It was to teach managers how to manage, not how to be entrepreneurs. In fact, taking risks was a bad thing, right? So you got to and an entrepreneur, every day there's a risk, right? You're going down through and you're cutting deals and, you're rolling the dice, and you want to roll the dice in the right kind of direction. So the more knowledge you have, the better your methods are, the greater the probability of success. So using the things like customer interviews, going down through and doing some market research, you're right. There are only a couple Steve Jobs out there. There aren't many people like that. Most of the people that try to think they know more than the customer are the ones that fail.
Yeah, very true.
So go ahead.
No. I was just going to rattle on. I have a sort of a set of things in my head. I wanted to talk about the general going global topic.
This is great for my audience. We have a wide audience. We're in 57 countries now, right? And so they're listening to us. So they might not listen to us right here, but we're streaming in 8 different resources out there right now. So they're listening to us somewhere.
So everyone that is in one of these countries, what you've got are governments that are there on both sides to help you out. I'm not, I worked within the Canadian, it turns out Canadian government. I'm not Canadian, but I was for 3 years running the IT practice for the Palo Alto consulate for the government of Canada. What our responsibility was to take Canadian companies and get them access to local markets here in California. And so you, within any one of your other countries, will have the equivalent. So let's say I'll use Moldova. I should pick another country. But let's say Norway. Okay, you're a Norwegian and you want to go ahead and expand into the US. There's a Norwegian embassy and Norwegian consulate spread throughout the US. It is there. There's a position called a trade commissioner or commercial attaché or some sort of a trade officer that is located either within the embassy and or within individual consulates spread throughout that is there to go ahead and connect you, the Norwegian, to the United States market. Because by doing so, you will expand back in Norway, the GDP of Norway and the employment within Norway. So they know the local markets, they have connections here, they can set up events, so they'll know the people that can fund things, just all kinds of great stuff. So contact your local government into a place where you're looking to expand.
Yeah, that's a really good point. At the U.S., I used the Gold Key program with the commercial services group at the U.S. embassies
Yeah.
worldwide. So actually, you pay about $1,000. You go in, and they have generally people that are from that country inside of the commercial services group, and they actually use their power to be able to go and help you set relationships up that would be nearly impossible to do on your own. And so you're right about it. I didn't even think of that, but that really, really works.
It's a professional tip right there.
Yeah, yeah.
So U.S. Department of Commerce has these trade missions where they will take you to Mongolia or Norway or wherever it is to go ahead and introduce you to the government officials there and all the larger corporations and those people that are sponsored, and they're there to receive you and understand, if you're an American, if you're expanding within Norway, what do you need to do that? So it's your country, and there's places outside your country where you can reach government officials, and they're there to help. Secondarily, on the inbound side, so I'll go back my Moldovan thing going into France.
Mhm.
So I can reach out to the Moldovan embassy at Paris and find my contacts in France. Likewise, there's the French agency, which is trying to get people from other countries to move to France, either the company entirely or simply a subsidiary. What it does is importing people from outside the country helps the GDP and employment. So you've got this reciprocal relationship going on both sides. So you work with your country and you work with the country that you're going to, and you'll just have, and it's usually free. The $1,000 was a small stipend, but 90% of the time it's free.
Yeah.
You just simply go in and you leverage those resources, and it's their job. It's their job to basically try to make you successful, and they get measured on that.
I mean, when I did it in the Ukraine a number of years ago, and it was unbelievable. The doors had opened. In fact, I met with the U.S. Ambassador Pyatt at the time, even to Pyatt, met with him, and then the commercial services officers took me out to meet with some of the top companies that could be potential partners for us. It was unbelievable. In fact, Lawrence Wright and I went down.
And there's just no way that you could do that on your own. If you're some random little company, you wouldn't even know who to call, and it would take you weeks or months to go ahead and try to get meetings if you got them at all. So those doors opening for you with somebody that's there on the ground whose job it is to do that for you is awesome.
This is great. I think we got to come up with a little guideline of hacks. Some of these hacks.
Let's write a book.
People know. I agree. I just wrote one actually on I have to send you a copy. Artificial.
You wrote one on South Korea, didn't you?
I did. I wrote my South Korean company's going global, actually.
Yeah.
So that was just a kind of a joke putting it together, but it was, and then I started doing it for other countries, right? I said, I'll just, I modify it a bit and use it for other countries. So we're coming up to the top of the show, Rick. We'll have to do a part 2 because I love having you here. It's great to see you. But, what would you say, that for companies that today, what kind of words of wisdom, closing thoughts, and how can people get a hold of you?
Okay, well, several things. And this is recount what we said. First off, get your act together in your home country, establish a stable business so that then the executive team, one or more of the members can go off to, location number 2 or location number 10 and actually do the research it takes to go ahead and do that. Do the research, do it well, plan a strategy, talk to customers in the local area as you're trying to put something together, fund it properly, and do a good job. Use resources like governments and accelerators to go ahead and leverage the activity. They're there to help on both sides. Governments especially are free resource. Accelerators take a little bit more time. Accelerators also might be a source of funding for you, which we didn't talk about, which is nice. And they'll take a small portion of the company in exchange for the time and effort that they put in. It's all good. And with a little bit of planning and so on, you can be successful. It's particularly needed for B2B businesses where you'll need a local presence on board, and connections are everything. B2C, little less, you may be able to expand from your own home territory, but either way, it never hurts to do all the steps we just talked through.
No, that's great. And how do people get a hold of you, Rick? That's the best way.
Easiest way is I teach at Berkeley. So my email there is my last name. You can see it there, Rasmussen. At berkeley.edu.
That's great. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule today. It's really appreciated, Rick. We'll have to do a part 2. And thanks to all my audience for one more time joining GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again on Thursday for another exciting edition. Take care, everybody. Take care, Rick. Thanks for taking your time again. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary.
Bye-bye, Mike.
Cheers.